I never thought I'd be here. If you had told me a few years ago that I'd be praising One Piece's story, I might have slapped you. But here we are. Saying that I was caught off guard by how well plotted the Alabasta Saga is, considering it was where I originally gave up, would be a colossal understatement. And the moment I knew I was going to love it this time around was the introduction of Nico Robin.
Mark me down as scared and horny.
With her almost playful demeanor as she makes fools of the Straw Hats, we are shown just how much higher the stakes are in the Grand Line after the rather meek introduction we were given to Baroque Works. Look, if one dude can Dynasty Warrior his way through an entire town of your people, I'm probably not gonna take you very seriously. But damn did Robin give a much needed 180. Now I can actually feel the most important part of this saga, the tension. Obviously there was tension in the East Blue, but how it's handled here is a bit different. Tension was more or less confined to each individual arc, with only Nami's temporary heel turn in the middle of Baratier leading into Arlong Park. For Alabasta, the tension permeates the entire saga because it's a race against time, and the Straw Hats don't fully know who they can trust. This couples beautifully with the log pose. Not only does each island require its own time to register before they can set sail again, they all have their own challenges, which could slow our crew down even more, leading to every island they visit, every person they encounter, compounding the tension. Each of the saga's major antagonists create a different type of tension that all meld together into the saga's main villain, Crocodile. This not only makes them interesting in their own right, with one major exception, but also helps the excellent build-up to Old Croc taking center stage. But that's not the only part that sets up the final conflict. The islands themselves also contribute. And it all starts back in the East Blue of all places. Roguetown is basically the proof of concept for Alabasta. It was the home of Rogers and is currently controlled by the Marines. But this is open control to contrast Baroque Works' hidden control of Alabasta. When conflict comes, the Marines assume they're going to win, but rogue elements turn the tides. And Smoker is our first glimpse at what to expect from Crocodile. While he and Croc are very different people, they both play the same role. They're the ones in control. This is also the first look we have at a Logia-type Devil Fruit user, and just how outclassed Luffy is against them right now, showing that our stretchy boy will need to find a way to touch Crocodile if he ever hopes to win. Reverse Mountain happens. Yeah. Look, I like this part. It has one of my favorite interactions in the whole series. That's peak comedy. But aside from introducing Vivi and Best Boy Laboon, all this little arc does is set up the weirdness of the Grand Line. Unless I'm missing something. Whiskey Peak, despite its flaws, gives us a taste of what the Straw Hats will be up against with Baroque Works. Most notably here, their vast numbers. But yeah, that won't really matter a whole lot considering how strong Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are. The most important part here is that it shows that their enemies could come from anywhere, even people they thought they could trust. And if they are not careful, a misunderstanding could lead to them fighting each other. But it's not all bad, as they will also find allies in those they thought were enemies. Their next stop on the Grand Line is Little Garden, to show that the world they've sailed into is so much bigger than what they're used to. But size matters not to the Straw Hats. Luffy will barrel on ahead regardless of how daunting things should seem, no matter how much more powerful those around him are. Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week support this with their devil fruit powers, reminding us what the true threat Baroque Works poses. Miss Golden Week can exert her authority over others with her paint, making her the one in control, while Mr. 3's wax powers similarly allow him to control the situation, as he can make wax clones to trick his foes or completely encase them in a prison of wax. But his greatest asset isn't that he's a schemer with a body made of wax that allows him to adjust his abilities when the need arises. It's that he is tenacious, meaning he's almost never really out of the fight. Like Rogue Town before it, Drum Kingdom is more or less a mini Alabasta, but with a really dumb villain instead of a cool one. Wapple's only saving grace as a character is that he's similar to Crocodile, in that he's arrogant and seems to think that he's owed his kingdom. But what's actually interesting here is the tension which is created by time. Time is running out to reach Alabasta before Crocodile enacts his takeover, but Nami has fallen ill and is in dire need of a doctor. They don't really have the time for another detour, but without her, they won't even make it to Alabasta. This is further aggravated by the lack of doctors on the island, and the only two remaining being an old kook and a Muppet that no one knows is actually a doctor too. And just when things start to look up, Wapple rears his ugly head to take what he believes is rightfully his. Every major plot beat here factors into that race against time, from trying to find a doctor to climbing a mountain to trying to get to the castle to support Luffy against Wapple and his goons. But of course, Luffy weathers a storm of punishment for his friends and stands victorious, reaffirming to Vivi that she has found the right allies. Now, we finally get to see how all of this comes together to create an absolutely beautiful and stressful arc. And it all starts with the introduction of one of One Piece's greatest characters, nay, one of anime's greatest characters, period. Bon Kure. Mr. 2 is a perfect reminder of what the Straw Hats are up against. They appear friendly only to be revealed to be an enemy that can look like anyone they touch. They're a threat that is nearly impossible to see coming, and now anybody they meet could be Bon in disguise. That's good shit right there. Oh, and then they meet this Ace guy who's like Luffy's brother, which is kinda neat, and he's just got the raddest devil fruit power we've seen so far. I mean, he's okay, I guess. Just like the coolest character we've seen, or whatever. No big deal. Alabasta wonderfully blends all of the settings that preceded it into one. It's massive, the biggest island thus far, to remind us how difficult the task at hand is. There are many powers vying for its control despite what its citizens think. This is beyond anything Luffy and crew have encountered before, and they're not ready for it. But that doesn't matter. They have to win, for the sake of their friend. While the build-up to Crocodile has been just short of immaculate, it would matter little unless the execution was just as good. And boy did Oda nail it! Mr. Zero's perfectly laid plans have sown so much discourse that Alabasta is a nation heavily divided, and he is considered the hero of the kingdom. His control is so near absolute that pretty much all he has to do is reach out and take it. But no matter how carefully he schemed or how tight his grip seems, tyrants always forget one important thing: the inherent goodness of most people. His arrogance has blinded him to the possibility that he can lose. As a warlord of the sea, he has the Marines on his side. The Straw Hats are just a small crew of fresh-faced upstarts that are nothing without their captain. Luffy will never be able to stop him on his own. And Vivi is too weak to stop the fighting. Whew, I love this saga. The buildup is so good, and the payoffs might even be better. Oda used tension really well for the majority of the story, employing clever twists to keep us on the edges of our seats. Well, most of the time anyway. I mean, some of it could probably have been cut and nothing would have been lost, but it does add some spicy tension, so it's fine, I guess. Just as long as it doesn't become a pattern. Crocodile was so lovably hateable that the only character I've wanted to see defeated more so far has been Arlong, but that's mostly because Nami is my favorite character. Aside from everything else I've said about him, part of what makes him work is his foil, Princess Vivi. She is his opposite in every way that matters, and her growth as not only a person, but as a leader throughout her journey with the Straw Hats was beautiful. Even though her story was clearly retconned when she changed sides because Whiskey Peak is a fucking mess. But ignoring that, I will miss her as part of the crew. And I'm not just saying that because her send-off to the crew almost had me in tears.
Anyways, I'm gonna go cry in the bathroom. Peace out, homies!
She gelled with everyone in a fun way, and her absence will be felt. And we really need more women on this crew. Now that the Straw Hats have gotten their feet wet in the wild sea that is the Grand Line, and have pushed through some political intrigue, we can get back to the fun adventuring part of One Piece, exploring new islands and meeting new friends. What could possibly go wrong? Sure, there will probably be some hardships, but we've got a good ship, and Luffy's brother is out there being all awesome and stuff. Even if something does happen, it can't be that bad, right? Right?